Hey guys, Infidel 1258 here. I want to do a video today talking about the Canadian political system, the Liberal government, the upcoming election, my concerns around this Liberal government and some of their initiatives with data collection and privacy invasion and even social media control, regulation and limitation on free speech. It's a lot of things to get into, but it's coming all at a time where we're facing a federal election in Canada in October, I believe, and the Liberal government, which is the federal government of Canada, right now is just doing a number of things, and has been over the last year or so, doing a number of things that are really an infringement upon what I would consider significant freedoms that any sort of free nation, any citizen in any free nation should have. So in 2018, a little background, this Liberal government, unbeknownst to the citizens and without any sort of public discourse around the issue, decided that they were going to solicit and collect credit card information, credit history information, debt information from TransUnion, which is an international credit agency, which has millions of Canadians' personal, private credit history data. And so the federal government, Stats Canada, approached TransUnion and said, we need that information about all the Canadians. And it was provided without any sort of disclosure to the Canadians, without any sort of discourse over whether that was fair and reasonable. The story was broke, and I saw it on Global News in 2018. And there was a lot of backlash because, of course, that's a significant amount of personal information. Everything from social insurance numbers to, debts, to what you've paid and not paid, what you owe, and so on, where you're borrowing, and so on. And I'm for one believe that my personal information, including my financial data, is no one's business but my own. If I want to share that with somebody, or if I want to voluntarily share that with my government because of, an interest in helping their data collection and, political efforts around the federal finance plan, that would be up to me to decide, I would think, but apparently not. So anyways, that was a huge problem. That happened in 2018. And then simultaneously, when that was discovered, it became clear that the Canadian government, the same Canadian government, under the umbrella of Stats Canada, wanted to seize all of our banking information. So everything, like where you spend money, when you spend money, whether it's domestic or international, how much money you have in savings, how you save it, is it an RSP, a mutual fund, a stock, a bond? Because they said they needed this information. They needed it because it would help them create sound fiscal policy. That's crazy. That's so crazy. It's a seizure. It was an invasion of privacy. It was an attempted seizure of personal information, not just of what we have, but what we spend and what we buy and when we buy it. That's absolutely personal information. That's absolutely private information, and there's no way they should have a right to that. Fortunately, public backlash resulted in that attempt failing, and they didn't get that access to that information. But now, fast forward May 16, 2019, the Liberal Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, was in France at a conference on technology. And he said before the conference, which he had no really reason to be there other than this announcement, which is, he said that Canada was going to make waves by trying to implement great financial punishments that would be held against social media companies and internet companies when they fail to mitigate what he perceived as hate speech. And so he said something like, there's too much hate on the internet, it's too dangerous, it's not reasonable, we need to do something, and the government's going to regulate this stuff. And if the big businesses don't want to get in line and help fight this unruly, dangerous hate speech, then we'll punish them. There'll be financial punishments, repercussions. And he followed that up this week with a 10-principle charter, digital charter, which is essentially it was a long list of plans and aspirations that the federal Canadian government would implement in order to control and guide online, internet-based interactions between humans. And he formed it into 10 separate principles that form this charter. It's insane for a lot of reasons. It's insane on the first basis because of the hypocrisy. He comes at selling us this idea that we need this charter because we need privacy. We need to. One of the principles of the charter is control and consent. It says Canadians will have control over what data they are sharing, who is using their personal data, and for what purposes, and know that their privacy is protected. That's exactly the opposite of the infringements that they themselves led in 2018, stealing the credit information from TransUnion, not stealing, but demanding, and then attempting to steal that same private information from the banking sector by compelling them to share it. Only stopped because of public sentiment. So on the one hand, you've got them saying in their charter that control and consent of your personal data is important to them, but then you see their actions are the exact opposite. That's a major concern for me because it speaks to the integrity of this government, and one of the main reasons why I don't want to see them reelected in October of this year. But it goes on from there, and it talks about something even more concerning in my opinion, which is the issue of free speech and access to the public internet space. Like the public, I consider it the watering hole of present day. You know, historically, traditionally, tribes would have been separated by distance and unable to reach each other before the internet, before telephone, but they would have come together at places where you could collect water, and they would have had opportunities to exchange ideas and to dialogue and maybe build relationships. In today's day and age, that's not how it is anymore, but we have the internet, and so we all come together on public spaces like Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or Twitch or Twitter or any of the legacy social media platforms, and we dialogue with one another. We learn from one another. Yeah, sometimes there's idiots who are very hateful or rude, dismissive, or what you might say is mean. But this idea, this pursuit to end hurt feelings and to create safe spaces is so insane. It's like I heard about a professor, a dean at Harvard this week that was forced to resign because he was defending what's his name? Weinstein, the producer who is alleged to have committed various acts of sexual assault in Hollywood, and so this lawyer who's a dean was defending this individual because in America and in Canada we have a right to presumed innocence until proven guilty. We have something called due process where you are innocent until you're proven guilty. But then these students at Harvard came forward and said, we don't feel safe. This dean is dangerous. We don't feel safe. We want him fired. We want him to resign. And he actually caved into this, and he surrendered. He gave up because these idiots felt they were unsafe. Unsafe because this lawyer was representing an individual, was respecting the principle of due process, and common law. Like this is the history of how the Western world works out, right from wrong. We have litigious processes that defend criminals, potential criminals, because sometimes people are wrongfully accused. I'm not saying Weinstein was. I'm just saying he's entitled to due process, as is everyone. So this guy gives up. He quits. And it's because there's too much pressure by these students who are insisting that they deserve and are entitled to safe spaces. And the same thing is happening with this charter here. The Liberal government's putting forward this charter that one of the 10 principles is Principle 9, that the internet will be free from hate and violent extremism. First of all, that's not an attainable aspiration. You can't restrict the evil people that are in the world from accessing the internet and sharing or creating terrible content. You can't. You might try, you might pull it down after it goes up, but you can't stop them. And worse than that, it's not just about content, it's about comments, it's about discussion. Canadians can expect that digital platforms will not foster or disseminate hate, violent extremism, or criminal content. On the surface, that sounds logical, but when you dive deeper, you recognize that there are already laws in place that prevent real hate speech, that prevent criminal content from being posted. So we don't need some charter to come in and oversee that. But really what this is then attacking, because there's already rules on those issues, it's attacking dissemination of hate. So what is hate? Dissemination of extremism. What is extremism? I'm a Christian. Christians believe that Jesus Christ was God, who literally became incarnate, man incarnate, on earth, lived, died, and resurrected 3 days later. These are thoughts that are not commonly accepted in today's day and age. These are beliefs that are rejected as illogical and by some as the core to a bigoted philosophy. People accuse Christianity of being bigoted because of its opinions and views on things like same-sex marriage and tradition and a preference for traditional marriage, for defending pro-life positions, and for having an opinion about how religion is exclusive and not everybody goes to hell. Sorry, not everybody goes to heaven. Are these hate speech words? Am I being a bigot right now by simply saying that the Bible addresses these issues? I think somebody would say so. I bet there are some viewers that might view this video that could perceive it that way. So if the government comes along and says that I am being hateful or extremist or violent or calling people to violence because of maybe the tone of my voice, can they censor me? Can they kick me off of social media? Can they deny me the universal access that they are simultaneously attempting to promise? Because point number one in their charter is that everyone will have access. So there's hypocrisy in this document. There's inconsistency and incompatibility, because we cannot have universal access by all users and then simultaneously promise a space free from quote unquote hate, because individuals who are free to speak are also going to be free to express hate. That's not nice. That's not a safe space, but that's real. This pursuit for safe spaces is poison. It's killing our society. We're trying to bubble wrap the world so that we can protect the feelings of individuals, when really honest discourse is the actual path to a greater, more unified world, where people like myself who believe Christian beliefs can come together with atheists and respectfully disagree, or where left can stand across from right and we can respectfully disagree, but hopefully learn from one another. The more we censor these conversations, the more we implement regulation and restrictions on who can say what, when, and where, the further we move from a reasonable, free society. I think this new charter from the Liberal government is dangerous. I think it's hypocritical based on their allegations of concern for consent and control of private information, knowing who they are and what they did in 2018 with our credit information, with our banking information. I don't trust this Liberal government. I'm terrified of what they would do if they were re-elected. But even if I did, I'd like to conclude this, because some of my viewers might be fans of the Liberal government. I would conclude by this: even if you trust Justin Trudeau or the Liberal government with the power that might come out of a charter of this nature, to silence or to censor individuals on the basis of, feeling that's hurt feelings might be had by the content of a post, you have to remember that the tool is being used across generations and across partisan lines. So right now it might be a tool for power in the hands of the Liberal government, but one day the Liberal government will not be the majority leader. And at that point you might be staring down the barrel of a Conservative government wielding the same power and saying to, extremist left positions that your words are hateful or that your content is unacceptable. And I would close by saying this: no words should be unacceptable. No words. There are laws against what hate speech is and restricting that. But every person should be able to express their opinions in a reasonable manner, regardless of content, so that we can grow from that, even if that growth is a rejection of the content. But we should never silence. We should never close off. We should never hide our youth and ourselves, because that seems to be what we're doing, hide from the darkness around us. We want to bubble wrap the world so we all feel safe. We want safe spaces everywhere so that we can feel secure and unharmed and unhated. But the truth isn't like that. The truth is darker. People are hateful and hurtful. So why deny them the opportunity to expose their own ignorance and ill will? Let them speak. And in that moment of speech, they will undermine their own position because people will see the ignorance of their views. And so I would, for one, be a proponent of anyone and everyone having an opportunity to have access to free speech. And I think charters like this, they terrify me because they move us further away from a world where we're free to think and free to express what we truly believe. And I think that's a worse world than the one we live in today. What do you guys think? This is a long video, but this is an important topic. Leave a comment below. Do you think that had you heard about the digital charter? Because I haven't seen any coverage really, except for with Rebel Media and World Alternative Media on YouTube. And I think it's important, so let's talk about it. Leave a comment below. Find more content from me about a wide range of topics, including my finance, my family, and my faith on steemit.com at infidel1258. Thanks guys for your time and attention. I hope you have an amazing day, and God bless you.